close your eyes and try to remember a world where you were completely, 100%, unreachable. No GPS in your pocket. No Life 360 tracking your every move. No frantic, "Where are you?" text from your mom at 3 p.m. In the 1990s, when you stepped out of your front door, you didn't just go outside. You entered a blind spot. You vanished. For the American teenager of the 90s, high school wasn't just a place of learning. It was the final frontier of true, unsupervised freedom. It was a decade of figure it out yourself. But to the helicopter parents of 2026, this era looks less like a nostalgic dream and more like a terrifying survival horror movie. Today, we're going back to 1992, 1995, and 1998 to understand why we were the last generation of wild kids and why the world we grew up in will never, ever come back. In the year 2026, the concept of being lost has become a relic of the past, a ghost story we tell our children. We live in an era of total visibility. Every movement is logged, every heartbeat is monitored, and a parent can open an app to see their teenager's location down to the exact street corner and the speed they are traveling. But if you step back into 1992 or 1995, you enter a massive, silent blind spot. This was the era of the digital blackout. To understand the 1990s high school experience, you first have to understand the sheer weight of the silence. When you walked out of your front door in 1994, you were effectively vanishing from the face of the earth until you decided to reappear. There was no tether, no digital umbilical cord. If you told your mom you were going to the park, she had to take your word for it. From that moment until dinner time, you were a free agent in a world that didn't track you. Think about the mental gymnastics of a 90s afternoon. Coordination required a level of strategic planning that would baffle a modern teenager. If you wanted to meet your crew at the mall or the local diner, you had to make a hard plan before the final bell rang at 3 p.m. You'd stand at your locker and say, "Meet me by the fountain at 4:30. If I'm not there by 4:45, I'm not coming." And that was it. There were no follow-up texts, no on-my-way notifications. If your car broke down or you lost track of time, your friends just sat there. They waited. They stared at the mall fountain. They watched people pass by. They talked to each other. They developed a muscle that has completely atrophied in the smartphone age, the ability to be bored and the patience to wait. This blackout created a unique type of resilience. If you ran out of gas on a rural back road at 10 p.m., you didn't reach for a glowing screen. You reached for your wits. You had to walk. You had to find a house with a porch light on, knock on a stranger's door, a concept that triggers stranger danger sirens in every modern parent's head, and politely ask to use their landline. You had to memorize phone numbers because your brain was your only contact list. But the most beautiful part of the digital blackout wasn't just the freedom, it was the privacy of failure. In the 90s, your embarrassments lived and died in the moment. If you tripped in the cafeteria, if you got rejected by your crush behind the gym, or if you wore a truly hideous outfit to the spring dance, there was no digital record. No one had a 4K camera in their pocket, ready to upload your shame to a global audience in seconds. We were allowed to be idiots, to be awkward, and to grow up without the crushing weight of a permanent digital footprint. We lived in the know because there was nowhere else to live. We weren't performing for a camera. We were simply living for ourselves, lost in the best way possible. Stepping onto an American high school campus in the 1990s was a sensory experience that no modern digital reconstruction could ever truly capture. It wasn't just a building. It was a living, breathing ecosystem that operated under a completely different set of social and physical laws. The air itself told a story. It was a heavy, unmistakable cocktail of floor wax, the metallic tang of thousands of locker doors, and the lingering scent of Drakkar Noir, or cucumber melon body spray. In many schools across the country, especially in the early 90s, that scent was mixed with something that sounds like a fever dream to a student in 2026. Stale cigarette smoke. Yes, the infamous smoking pit. It was a designated area, often just a patch of asphalt behind the gym or near the cafeteria, where students could legally light up between classes. It was the ultimate social crossroads, a place where the lines between cliques blurred under a cloud of Marlboros. The physical architecture of the school felt more raw. There were no high-tech security gates or facial recognition cameras at the entrance. Security was usually just one man, often a retired local cop named Officer Bob, whose primary job wasn't checking for cyber threats, but making sure no one snuck out of the open campus's lunch break. This was a legendary rite of passage. The moment the lunch bell rang, the parking lot turned into a scene from an action movie. You and 5 of your closest friends would pile into a beat-up 1988 Honda Civic or a boxy Jeep Cherokee. There were no seatbelts involved, no phone apps reporting your driving habits to your parents, and certainly no speed governors. You had exactly 35 minutes to fly down the local highway, grab a 99-cent Taco Bell burrito, and race back before the next bell. It was a daily exercise in high-stakes time management and mechanical luck. And then, there were the lockers. In the 90s, your locker was your only piece of private real estate. It was the only social media profile we had. We didn't have Instagram grids or TikTok bios. We had a 12-inch wide vertical metal box. We decorated them with meticulous care, using Scotch tape and magnets to hang up cutouts from Sassy, Thrasher, or Rolling Stone magazines. The inside of a locker was a curated museum of your identity photos taken with a disposable Kodak camera, mirrors with best friends forever stickers, and the scribbled phone numbers of crushes on the inside of the door. But there was a darker, more terrifying side to this architecture that modern parents can't wrap their heads around. The hallways were often blind spots. If a fight broke out or if you were being bullied, there was no video evidence. No one was pulling out a smartphone to record the drama for the internet. You had to navigate the social hierarchy using your own instincts. You learned to read the room, to avoid certain hallways at certain times, and to stand your ground when necessary. It was a world of physical presence, where your reputation was built on your actions and your words, not your followers. It was a concrete jungle where we learned to be resilient, because in the 1990s, the school walls didn't just hold up the roof. They held the secrets of a generation that was truly allowed to grow up in the shadows. To a parent in 2026, the 1990s don't look like a decade of peace and prosperity. They look like a series of catastrophic safety failures. We live in the era of safetyism, a world where every sharp corner has been padded and every risk has been calculated by an algorithm. But in the 90s, our parents operated under a completely different social contract. The contract of benign neglect. It wasn't that they didn't love us, it was that they trusted the world to teach us the lessons they couldn't. This is the helicopter nightmare. Today, if a child isn't responding to a text within 90 seconds, the panic begins. In 1995, your mother didn't know if you were at the library, at a house party in the woods, or sitting on a curb 5 miles away. There was a profound, heavy silence between parents and children that has been completely obliterated by the smartphone. We were the last generation to have a secret life. Our parents didn't see our filtered photos. They didn't read our group chats. They didn't know our GPAs in real time. They only knew what we chose to tell them at the dinner table. For a modern parent, this lack of data is terrifying. They see the 90s as a decade of risky play without a safety net. We went to field parties in the middle of nowhere, guided only by a hand-drawn map on a napkin and the sound of distant bass. We stayed out until midnight, and the only tracking device we had was the streetlight rule. When the orange glow of the sodium lamps hit the pavement, you'd better be pedaling your bike toward home. But there's a deeper reason for the terror: the loss of survival muscles. In the 90s, if you got into a conflict with a bully or a teacher, there was no block button. You couldn't retreat into a digital safe space. You had to stand in that linoleum-floored hallway and negotiate your way out of trouble. You had to read facial expressions, body language, and tone of voice. You learned resilience because you had no choice. You failed, you got embarrassed, you got lost, and you got hurt, and you did it all without a digital record following you for the next 30 years. Today's parents are terrified because they know their children are growing up in a padded cell of technology. They've removed the physical danger, but in doing so, they've created a generation that is digitally connected but emotionally isolated. We were built different because we were allowed to break. We fell off the monkey bars, we got lost in the city, and we survived the silence. We were the last ones to grow up in the blind spot of history, and that is exactly why those who didn't live it will never truly understand the beauty of being unsupervised. In the modern era, shopping is a solitary, clinical act. You click a button on a cold screen, and a cardboard box arrives at your door 24 hours later. There is no soul in the transaction. But in the 1990s, going shopping wasn't about the product, it was a pilgrimage. For the American teenager, the local suburban mall was our secular cathedral. It was the only place on earth where you could see and be seen without a digital profile. To a parent in 2026, The idea of dropping a 14-year-old off at a massive glass and steel labyrinth with $20 and no cell phone sounds like a recipe for a kidnapping. To us, it was our first taste of true sovereignty. Walking through those heavy glass doors was like entering a pressurized cabin of pure 90s aesthetic. The scent hit you first, a chaotic, wonderful collision of Cinnabon cinnamon, the chlorine from the decorative fountains, and the overpowering cloud of perfume drifting out of Abercrombie & Fitch. You didn't scroll through a feed, you walked the concourse. You'd spend 3 hours sitting on a wooden bench outside of Sam Goody or Suncoast Video, just watching the world go by. This was the mall rat culture. We were learning the subtle art of social hierarchy in real time. You knew exactly which corner belonged to the skaters, which table in the food court was claimed by the cheerleaders, and where the goths gathered in their heavy velvet capes despite the 90-degree heat outside. It was a physical LinkedIn, a face-to-face Instagram, and it required a level of social bravery that has been completely lost to the block button. And then, there was the Friday night ritual, Blockbuster Video. If you wanted to see a movie in 1996, you didn't have 5,000 titles at your fingertips. You had a physical destination. The Friday night trip to Blockbuster was a high-stakes mission. You'd drive there with your friends, the windows down, the radio blasting, and you'd walk those blue and yellow aisles with a sense of urgent purpose. There was a specific weight to those plastic VHS cases. You'd pick one up, read the back, look at the grainy photos of the actors, and make a collective decision. If the new releases wall was empty, you were heartbroken. You'd peer behind the cardboard flaps, hoping someone had just returned a copy of Scream or The Matrix. There was a social contract at Blockbuster. Be kind, rewind. If you popped a tape into your VCR and it started at the end credits, you felt a flash of genuine communal betrayal. We had to interact with the clerk behind the counter, pay our late fees in crumpled dollar bills, and physically return the tapes to the metal drop box. It was a world of friction. Everything took effort. Everything required a car, a conversation, and a choice. Today, the dead mall and the empty Blockbuster parking lot are the ruins of our civilization. They are the ghosts of a time when connection wasn't something you found in a cloud, but something you found in a crowded hallway, under the neon hum of a food court sign, waiting for a friend who promised they'd be there at 4:30. In the era of streaming, music is like oxygen. It is everywhere, it is free, and it is largely taken for granted. You can skip a song in 3 seconds if the intro doesn't grab you. But in the 1990s, music was a high-stakes investment. It was a physical possession that you had to earn. If you loved a band, you didn't just follow them on an app. You saved your allowance for 3 weeks, hopped on your bike, and rode to Tower Records or Camelot Music. You bought the CD. You peeled off that annoying plastic security seal, and you sat on your bedroom floor for an hour, reading every single word in the liner notes. You knew who the producer was, where the album was recorded, and you thanked the gods of grunge that the lyrics were printed inside, so you didn't have to guess what Kurt Cobain was mumbling. There was a specific mechanical ritual to our music. Remember the Sony Walkman? Or the early Discman with G protection that promised it wouldn't skip, but always did the moment you stepped off a curb? We walked through high school hallways with yellow foam headphones, literally wired into our own private worlds. We weren't shuffling a million songs. We were listening to one album from start to finish the way the artist intended. It was an immersive, focused experience that modern background music can't touch. And then, there was the ultimate 90s love letter, the mixtape. Creating a mixtape was an act of manual labor. You had to sit by the radio for hours, finger hovering over the record button, waiting for the DJ to stop talking so you could capture the new Pearl Jam or TLC track. You had to time the songs perfectly to fit on a 60-minute Maxell cassette. Giving someone a mixtape wasn't just sharing a playlist. It was giving them 6 hours of your life and a piece of your soul. It was a tactile, analog connection in a world that wasn't yet digitized. To a teenager today, the idea of waiting 4 hours to hear a song sounds like torture. To us, it made the music matter. It made the melody feel like it belonged to us, and only us. The 1990s high school experience didn't die a sudden death. It faded away, one signal at a time. It died the moment the first affordable Nokia flip phone entered a backpack. It died when the blind spot, that beautiful, terrifying space where no one could find you, was closed forever by GPS and instant messaging. We traded our unsupervised freedom for a digital safety net. And while the world is undeniably safer now, we have to ask, What did we leave behind in those linoleum hallways? We left behind the ability to be truly alone with our thoughts. We left behind the necessity of solving our own problems without a Google search or a text to mom. We left behind the privacy of being a messy, awkward teenager without a permanent digital record of our every mistake. When we look back at those grainy VHS tapes of 1992 or 1995, we aren't just looking at old clothes and bad hair. We are looking at the last generation of wild kids. We were the last ones to grow up in the shadows, to negotiate our own peace treaties in the smoking pit, and to find our way home by the light of the street lamps. If you were there, in the trenches of a 90s high school, you know exactly what I'm talking about. You can still smell the floor wax and hear the slam of those heavy metal lockers. What is the one thing from your school days that you wish your kids could experience just for one day? Tell me your story in the comments below. Let's keep these memories alive before they fade into the digital noise. I'm the voice of nostalgic things, and if you want to keep traveling back to the decades that defined us, hit that subscribe button and ring the bell, because the past isn't just behind us, it's who we are. See you in the next decade.